Wednesday webinar series. Boy, that's a lot of W's. I heard WWW. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m., that's this time, Pacific time, we host a 30-minute conversation with a leader in education to understand where they're having success and what tips you can apply to your work. Today's session is titled Turning Data Alignment into Student Success. Very important. We have three goals. The first goal is we hope that you have some fun, so we're going to build that in there. And honestly, anytime these two ladies are together, I guarantee you're going to have fun or your money back. Learn one new thing and make one friend. And so to that end, this is a slightly unconventional webinar framework. As you can tell, you can see all the participants as opposed to them being hidden from you. So feel free to leave your camera on, but go ahead and make sure that you are muted. There may be opportunities for you to have dialogue, which we highly encourage, but we do love being able to see your face. And again, this is just a short period of time, and we are starting to build more and more interactivity into our webinar series. Next week's webinar series is going to feature practical applications of AI in the classroom and for administrators that drive student success. The talk itself is going to be with a principal from LA Unified, Dr. Charles. And it's limited to only 8 minutes. It's going to have it's going to be very succinct. We're going to spend 15 minutes in breakout rooms after that with teams of 3 discussing ways that you think AI could be helpful or is being helpful inside of your district or school or classroom. So that's going to be a very fun, interactive way for us to be able to come together as educators for student success. And I hope you'll be able to make next week's session same time. Great. I'm going to advance the slide. Awesome. So we are all facing budgetary pressures. As we know, there was 6.8 billion in federal funding that was put on pause. Most of that has been released from the federal government. But when we're facing these kinds of pressures, it does cause a lot of anxiety and concern about, are we spending in the right place? And so to that end, our Measure What We Value Summit, which is hosted the first week of February 2026, we host over 300 school leaders, board members, and educators with a singular focus. How do we align every dollar to what matters most? That is driving student outcomes. Our keynote speaker is AJ Crable. He will be unpacking strategies from his book, Great on Their Behalf, including his Alignment Resources workbook to help us prioritize investments with the highest academic return on investment. So if you want to secure your seat, I would recommend it. Spots are limited. You can register there at the link parsecsummit.com, or Morgan is also going to post that in chat. All right, let's start out by recognizing our first-time visitors. If you are a first-time visitor, please go ahead and enter a 1 in chat. And let me try to find my chat. Where did it go? Can't find my bar. Well, I'm not going to be able to find it, Morgan, so you're going to have to, or Kim, if you can see the chat, maybe you could call out any first-time guests that we have. You can't find it either?
We've got Shannon, Paula, Erica. Welcome all.
Yeah, it's great having you. Super exciting to see how this is gaining traction. All right, good stuff. Next week's webinar, I've already given you a highlight for it. Morgan's dropping a link in chat, which is how you can make sure that you register for it. Our webinar invites are set on a ongoing cadence. So again, it's only 30 minutes. We're really disciplined around the time management piece of it. And I've already been talking too long, so I'm going to shut up about that. All right, good. Let's get to our guests. So today we have the pleasure of being joined by Leila Dunmore, founder and director of Evergreen Institute of Excellence. Thank you, Kim, for the shout outs there. Evergreen Institute of Excellence is a personalized flex-based charter in Cottonwood, California. It was founded in 2015. They started with 35 students, and that today they serve 185 students across 7 counties. She is also joined by ours truly, Kimberly Tumen, of course I screwed it up, I'm sorry, one of our leading voices here at Parsec Education. So with that, Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jamin. Welcome, everybody. So excited to see new and returning friends in the chat. We are going to put you to work a little bit here because I have a poll for you. While Leila and I talk a little bit about her background and everything, because I just kind of want to talk about, Leila, what your school is about and how it works. But while she's doing that, guys, Leila had a big problem at the beginning of last school year, and that problem was she had a lot of data on her hands. Compliments, unfortunately, of us, Parsec, because we gave her a lot of data to work with. But with that in mind, tell us where you're at right now with how much data you have on your hands. Are you drowning in it? Are you feeling like you're doing okay in swimming? Or are your duckies in a row and you're feeling great? So, and then Leila, can you tell us kind of a little bit more about your school? And the reason I ask is I know that with a lot of data on your hands, sometimes people see the way their school is set up as a mountain they have to climb over, right? Because there's not a natural flow to how we're going to use this data. There may not be on-site opportunities. It might be hard to get parents in or seeing them face to face or even virtually. So just kind of tell us a little more about your school so that as we move forward, people can kind of compare their setup to yours and maybe figure out what they can take away from your experience.
So let's see here, my elevator speech. We are a flex-based personalized learning program, public charter. So the parents decide that they want to have their students with us. So it is a school of choice. And um, they would like to have some say and some control possibly in their students' learning. And so they come to us, they meet with a supervising teacher, they do the work together and whatnot, and come back and talk about what's been learning in that amount of time. So it is a hybrid. We do have some in-person opportunities, but again, parents, students elect to opt into those. Those are not required or mandatory. Um, we do live in California here, which does give parents a choice and a right to opt out of that state test. However, for us as schools, we are required and held to a 95% participation rate. And at one point, this was problematic because a lot of our families are coming to us because they may not want to participate in government-led opportunities. And so it's been a journey in regards to the understanding of why we as a charter are requesting this. And then we eventually got to the point of if you're coming to us and you're choosing to come to us, I can't have you opt out. I can't have you say no, thank you. And we are beholden to the state test. It's not something that we're loving. That one and done is not a true accurate reflection, I believe, of what our students are capable of doing and know. So we use iReady 3 times a year, baseline, middle, and end. And that iReady actually kept our charter open when we had a charter renewal come up because the state dashboard looked horrendous in regards to ELA and math. But I was able to demonstrate and show through the growth of our students in iReady, where did they come to us at and where are they at now? Love that verifiable data. And I actually had CCSA call me up and say, there's a problem here. Why should you stay open? And we were able to tell them the rest of the story. So that journey, and then along comes Parasec. And I'm like, okay, I need help with this data. I love what I do, but it needs to be meaningful and making sure that the taxpayers' dollars are benefiting all. So coming right along, Parasec gave me some great information. I had an insight meeting with a gentleman who is new to me and couldn't believe that EIE actually made gains through the COVID year and had to go back and double check some things. And truly, we did. And so telling more of our story. And out of that insight meeting, I'm like, you know what? My team needs to hear this. I have done nothing other than guide, direct, and suggest, and hey, what about this? What about that? But they're the ones who were in the trenches, guiding and directing their students, their families. They need to hear this. They need to hear the impact that they're having. And so had my next data insight meeting, and Kim so graciously allowed my whole team to be a part of that meeting, and just walked us through the process. I hope you all know that data can be manipulated to what we want it to be reflective. And so there was proof in the pudding, straight out of the box, through Parasec, that we are making progress. Our kids are growing. And so that was wonderful, to empower them to see it firsthand. And then the other piece that came out of that was our multiple measures. But I'm going to let Kim chime in because I may have jumped off the tracks here.
Great. And that was it exactly. What I wanted to note for everybody is that what Leila did was so unusual for my partners. At the time that we were working through all of this, I had 40 partners on my roster that I was working with, schools all over California. And when Leila said, "Can I have everybody that works for the school in this meeting?" I was like, okay, that's a little unconventional, but if that's what you want, we can do this. And what I found is that her data parties, as they have turned into, actually allowed an open space for conversations. And that was an unusual ask, but it was an ask that worked for the culture she was trying to create in her school. And that's something that I would just like to encourage all of you in, is if it might seem out there or totally crazy, but if you have an idea, we are here to support that as Parsec, and we would love to support you in it. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys so you can kind of understand is some of Evergreen's data, so you can kind of see what they were looking at when they went through this. So Jamin, I think there we go. So her wealth of data that she was slightly overwhelmed by in that first meeting was checking out her year-over-year trends. And I didn't put the COVID one on because the last year's was just so impressive even more. And you can see the gains that she continues to have within the school year over year. And we had talked about in the summer different things they were going to try from the 23-24 year into the 24-25 year, and how they were going to slightly change some of their policies and curriculum and things. And so since we had talked about all of that, we intentionally paid attention year over year then to how their iReady scores looked and the changes that had been made. And you can see by the ever increasing numbers of blue here, even from fall 23-24 to fall 24-25, there are some differences in gains there where the decrease in not mets actually occurred even year over year, not just from season to season in the testing. So that's all great news for us to be tracking in iReady. And then the other part of that wealth of her data was CASP. So Jamin, I think we have one for that too. There we go. And we've got year over year for CASP gains. This actually made me really excited. We're looking at obviously the 24-25 preliminary CASP data, but that preliminary data, even what has not been, officially certified by the state, gives us great hope, again, for some of the initiatives that were put in place intentionally to work with that population of students that really doesn't like those government tests. And I think the transparency that you built in your school around this, how intentional you were with those conversations, and the thought you put into ahead of time of how to work with students to build their courage up a little bit in test prepping, that's just, it comes out here in the numbers. It's right here, like you were talking about, Leila. The proof is in the pudding. So just so you guys have a reference point when you're watching this of some of their data and what we're looking at, the intentionality and the planning that went into this was not just a we did this for 1 year thing. This is a years in the making conversation. So really excited about what we're seeing and how this is working out with your team. So for the next part, this is the multiple measures report Leila was talking about. If you are not familiar with Parsec, we have created a one-page report front and back that is done by student for every student that participates in your local assessment and state assessment. And if they're only participating in local assessment, that's all that's on the sheet, but that's okay. If they have state assessment, it gets factored in as well. But what's really important about this is Leila brought this in report not as a hammer. And I loved when you said that. So I'm going to use it everywhere I go because something you said is we will not hit people over the head with this. Instead, it's for transparency and conversations. And it's to give pride to students so they have a little bit of ownership, but also to open conversations with parents so those who are seeking to be a part of their students' education, which is what your school is set upon, it's part of your vision, it's your culture, it's who you are. You brought this in as a tool to keep those conversations going and to bolster that education connection versus hammering down, you must do better or something like that. And I thought that was beautiful. That was a beautiful thing that you were talking about. So can you tell us a little more about that, Leila? Like, how did you do it though? That's the part that's really important, right? Is you had a great idea, but how did you do it?
This came into play. My first years in teaching in a teaching classroom, individual teachers could be and often were hammered for what they did or didn't do with their classes that particular year. Data was put out on the big screen with specific teachers' names attached to it. For me, this was something that we shouldn't be afraid of. This is a reflection of how a student did on that assessment or those assessments. And I didn't want the kids to be afraid of it. I didn't want the teachers to be afraid of it. Additionally, the way that we've done some things with our in-person learning, there are multiple people attached to our students and multiple people have invested in our kiddos. So we use this multiple measure paper in our teacher, family, student meetings and had discussions around it, celebrating successes. And if there was some questionable data that was on there was deeper conversations done. For example, okay, so you're a seventh grader, and it says that you're testing out as a third grader in language arts, but you've been showing me work that is more on grade level than what you're testing out on. Is this a true reflection? Did you put time and energy and effort into this? Oh, and by the way, I really can't give you an A for language arts if you're testing out as a third grader. Would you like the opportunity to redo this? And so that had some shifting going on as well. Our teachers, our students, celebrating that or being accountable for it, and then using that to set some goals for the future, whether it be the mid-year or the end of the year. What does the student want to accomplish? And even with our little people, where do you want to be? What do you want to see come out of this particular school year? For our parents are the daily teachers. They're the teachers in the trenches. Some of our parents wanted to know how they were doing as teachers. Were their students getting it? And so that was also an additional shift in regards to that CASP. Some of our families just want to follow through with their participation, and they're going to click on through, and that's a discussion that we have. And some families want to make that meaningful. So we need to know that. So we're going to structure the time of the test and taking of the test. And so those parents wanted to actually know how they compared with other kids across the state.
That is awesome that you got the parents so engaged. And I think that that's really the key that we're talking about here is getting data into the hands of students and parents, bridging that communication between instruction and assessment, and making that data meaningful. I'm really impressed that you got parents to have that deep conversation. And I think that we can all take that to heart that especially when you have parents who want to be a part of their child's education. And we're really seeing that in the culture of California right now, aren't we? Where in the forums and I mean, we're all on Facebook, right? Snooping on our parents, maybe just me. To see how they're doing, but they're saying they want to be more engaged in their children's education. And you extended them that opportunity. So I would say that that is definitely, in my opinion, one of the big key takeaways I took from your guys' story is that you armed your teachers first and talked to them about what data looked like. And then you had them go to the parents with language, with building blocks, with supports, with tools in their bucket that said, here's how we're going to bridge that gap. And I want to be a partner with you in that. I think that's great. The next slide, I think Jamin tells us about ways they can do this in their own system. So let's head over to there. So we talked about this, Leila, but I kind of want you to talk through, you started this journey by taking kind of what you already had. So what did you start with? You kind of highlighted a few of these for me. When you looked at when you got your insights meeting, it was already September, if memory serves, and you already had an entire calendar full of PD and things like that. So when your brain went into overdrive and you thought, how can we do this? What came next? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, so there's specific PD that's set aside, allowing us to get in deep without interruptions and whatnot. But we also had built in some team meetings throughout the year that were already on the calendar, some 1.5, 2 hour type things. And so I hijacked some of those and we went ahead and jumped in to this. And just having conversations and helping the teachers get comfortable with what these reports were all about. And so out of that, so last year was the year that was kind of like a trial run type thing. This year, we already had a full day of professional development on Monday the 4th. Even though there wasn't an insight meeting, we went ahead and took the Parasec data that's there on my dashboard and really dialed down and drilled down. In addition to that, we were able to create a little bit of our own to show year over year specific to grade level with iReady and also the CASP. So now, because we're already underway, we have stuff built in to our calendar, and the expectations are there that teachers, this will be mindful, this will be attended to, and we're here to support each other. It is not, hey, I gotcha. What did you do last year? Because according to this report, the majority of the kids didn't grow. It's nothing like that at all.
That's great. I love that you got aligned around the vision and the support that you were going to be offering. And again, not a hammer. I love that. That's a beautiful vision. Well, friends, that's what we have for you. Those tips on how to kind of do this in your own. I know some of you are probably thinking to yourself, yeah, but what does this look like in my system? So we want to, in the last few minutes we have here in this webinar, open up the floor to questions or anything. And one of the things I really, really wanted to notate on that take home is, and Leila said this millions of times, so I wrote it down for 3 times. Communicate, communicate, communicate.
Yeah.
And and make sure that your leadership, Leila and her team, are supported by a team like us, Parsec. We're here for you, but then that way they can support their team. So so we're all leaning on each other.
That's
So
great, Kim. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say questions in the chat, or if you want to ask them out loud.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes left in the webinar before we shut it down. So if you do have any questions, feel free to post them in chat. In the meantime, I did want to talk about a special that Parsec is offering. Yeah, Julia, then we'll get to that question momentarily. So we are offering a small school partnership cohort. This is something that was originally spawned out of a webinar we did 3 weeks ago with Dr. Charles. She is one of the principals inside of LA Unified. And the problem that she has is, it can be expensive to bear the cost of a $9,500 license for Parsec Real. for a small school system. And so to that end, we've created a mechanism that allows you to identify, add 2 additional schools or districts to your contract. And so and then that becomes a shared cost across all 3 entities. And so that hopefully makes things a lot more accessible. If you're unfamiliar with what Parsec Real is, it's a mechanism or a video survey tool that allows you to gather feedback from students, teachers, as well as community members, parents, via video, audio, and text. Participation rates are 55% or greater. People are getting the feedback from from very hard to reach audiences traditionally, as well as broad audiences, and they're able to leverage AI to analyze that feedback in real time. So adding a lot of value there. Okay, great. So with that infomercial out of the way, let's get to Julia's question. Kim?
Hi, Julia. Leila, what did you use for your independent study math curriculum?
So we fully embrace that there is not a one-size-fit-all. Our kids come to us with all sorts of different challenges, learning abilities, as well as how best they learn. So there's not one program. We do use the Demi Learning Math UC for those kids that are visual kinesthetic learners. Yes, there's lots of parts and pieces and may not be friendly for those little people, families, or multiple aged families, but it works sometimes. We also do a McGraw-Hill My Math. This here has been embraced by the families who really want to follow the state standards and understand that this is going to be Common Core math. And again, those families who didn't come to us because they wanted to embrace Common Core, we don't assign that. We don't have them do that, there's pushback against that. And then we also have some teachers that are using the iReady, where there are lessons that can be assigned specific to the student. And whether it be on the computer, we also have workbooks that they're giving parts and pieces of those workbooks that are specific to them. So those are the 3 main ones that we have used. Additionally, we also, math has been a focus of ours this last year. So we are doing a Math Boost in-person class, Math Foundations, Math Thinking, as well as offering in-person pre-algebra, Algebra 1, and geometry, because our families needed help with that.
Great, thank you very much. And then there was a question in chat as to if Parsec Premium included, or Parsec Analytics Premium, excuse me, included multiple measures, and it does include multiple measures. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to that email address at hello, and we'll make sure that you get those in the normal sequence that they're supposed to be delivered. So with that, our guest today has been Leila Dunmore, founder and director of Evergreen Institute of Excellence. Leila, thank you so much for joining us on our Wednesday weekly webinar series.
You're welcome. And this was really painless.
If you're interested in adding your voice and helping us host one of these, again, send an email to hello, and we'd love to have you as a guest. With that, have a great rest of your week, everybody, and good luck as we're all starting school. Bye.
Thank you.